Agreed? The bald old man looked at Chen with some surprise. Previously, he had made several tempting offers, and Chen had hesitated each time. He hadn't expected the last statement to make Chen agree so decisively. Chen smiled slightly, not saying much more. Quite an interesting little fellow. The bald old man understood now, looking at Chen with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. A person who clearly distinguishes between favors and grudges was indeed likable. It seemed this kid took human relations quite seriously. When do we start? Since Chen had agreed, there would be no more hesitation. He asked immediately. Now, the bald old man replied. If you can endure the black divine thunder, I will teach you the complete version of the thunder god body. He patted Chen on the shoulder and added, Don't worry, I won't make you a cannon fodder. If anything goes wrong, I'll intervene immediately. After waiting for hundreds of years, a little more time doesn't matter. I'll do my best, Chen nodded and said. The bald old man also nodded, then moved quickly, heading straight for the black thunder sea that dominated this vast, mysterious space. However, he didn't get too close and stopped when he was still tens of thousands of feet away. Go over there! The bald old man pointed to a nearby spot in the void where a black stone platform floated in midair. Chen nodded, his body flickering as he quickly rushed over and landed on the platform, sitting down cross-legged. Only after sitting down did he feel a chilling sensation creeping in, as if a cold breath was seeping into his body. Under this cool energy, the internal injuries he had sustained from the black divine thunder began to gradually heal. This platform is made of thunder-dissolving stone. It has some effects in dissipating the power of thunder. When you're on it, it will help reduce some of the pain, the bald old man explained. Chen nodded and looked up at the bald old man. Seeing that Chen was ready, the bald old man raised his head and gazed at the endless thunder sea. Then, he extended his dry fingers and pointed into the air. Buzz. As his finger pointed down, the space around them twisted violently, sending out ripples of spatial waves. It was as if multiple spatial chains had formed, piercing through space and shooting straight into the thunder sea. Boom. A low, rumbling sound, familiar and chilling, reverberated through the air. Chen looked up and saw a massive bolt of black lightning, about several dozen feet long, struggling violently like a giant serpent. It was being dragged out of the thunder sea by several spatial chains. The black divine thunder writhed in fury, its destructive power unleashing in waves, but the seemingly fragile spatial chains didn't even tremble. Chen clicked his tongue inwardly. No wonder this was a super powerhouse at the 9th grade supreme level. The black divine thunder in his hands was as powerless as a baby. The bald old man pulled the black divine thunder away from the thunder sea. Then, with a grasp of his palm, the spatial chains around the black divine thunder tightened, causing a sizzling sound to erupt. The size of the black divine thunder quickly shrank, and the destructive power it held rapidly diminished. In just a few moments, the black divine thunder had been reduced to about 10 feet in size, clearly much weaker. It should be enough now. The bald old man looked at Chen. Are you ready? Chen looked at the black divine thunder. The destructive power it contained seemed similar to the one he had endured before. It seemed like he could handle it. Chen took a deep breath and nodded. Boom. Without further ado, the bald old man waved his hand, and the black divine thunder shot down, carrying a destructive force as it fell fiercely toward Chen. Chen's body immediately flared with black flames of spiritual energy, and his skin turned a faint silver as he activated the thunder god body completely. Boom. Just as he finished setting up his defenses, the black divine thunder slammed into his body with an earth-shattering roar. Bang! In that instant, Chen's body was hit as though struck by a heavy blow, nearly throwing him off the platform. In just the span of 2 breaths, the spiritual energy was forcefully pushed back into Chen's body, and the black divine thunder, filled with destructive power, surged wildly into him. Sizzle, sizzle. The arcs of black lightning danced across Chen's body, and the intense pain that could cause one to faint spread throughout him once again. Chen gritted his teeth, his body trembling slightly as the spiritual energy inside him surged wildly, desperately resisting the impact of the black, divine thunder. However, his spiritual energy was clearly insufficient, and it quickly collapsed. The black lightning coursed through his body, wreaking havoc as his meridians twisted and his flesh and bones emitted horrifying sizzling sounds. The excruciating pain spread relentlessly, and Mu Chen bit down so hard that blood oozed from his mouth. Dizziness assaulted his mind, threatening to knock him out. But he knew that if he lost consciousness, the uncontrolled black divine thunder would destroy him completely. The black lightning wrapped around Mu Chen's body, flickering and jumping with fierce, distorted arcs. The bald old man watched this scene with a tense expression. If Mu Chen couldn't endure the black divine thunder any longer, everything would be lost. "Hang in there," the bald old man muttered. The dizziness kept hitting him, but just as Mu Chen was about to crack under the pain, a cold breath suddenly entered his body. Under this chilling sensation, the intense pain in his body eased slightly, and the raging black divine thunder also calmed down a little. It was the thunder transformation platform beginning to take effect. Mu Chen let out a sigh of relief and gritted his teeth, holding on. After nearly half an hour, he slowly opened his eyes. The black divine thunder around him had completely dissipated, most of it dispersing from within his body. Mu Chen's face was pale, and as he moved even slightly, it felt as though his muscles were being torn apart, the pain overwhelming. "You did it!" The bald old man descended, smiling in relief. Mu Chen forced a bitter smile, unable to speak, and instead closed his eyes to recover from his internal injuries. The bald old man waved his hand, and a surge of vast, spiritual energy poured into Mu Chen's body, accelerating his healing and repairing the damage left by the black, divine thunder. With the bald old man's help, Mu Chen's injuries were fully healed within minutes. "Ready for more?" The bald old man asked with a grin as he saw Mu Chen's recovery. Mu Chen shuddered and nodded weakly, his face full of helplessness. Boom, boom. The sound of thunder roared once again. Time passed slowly in the agony, and for most of the day, Mu Chen was struck repeatedly by lightning, his body torn apart, barely clinging to life. He could even smell the burnt stench coming from his own flesh. His entire body felt numb. On the thunder transformation platform, when the 18th black divine thunder finally dissipated, Mu Chen could no longer bear it and collapsed onto the stone platform, his face ashen and gasping for air, his body feeling as if it were shattered. The bald old man landed beside him, pressing his palm to Mu Chen's head, channeling spiritual energy to help him recover from the internal injuries. After a moment, he released his hand. Mu Chen barely regained some strength but felt an extreme sense of exhaustion, unable to move even a finger. Yet, despite the fatigue, he could sense that his body had grown a little stronger. The torment, it seemed, had indeed been beneficial. The bald old man's withered hand glowed with a dark light as it swept over Mu Chen's body, and Mu Chen saw that black spots had appeared on his skin, moving like liquid and emitting an unsettling aura. These were the black divine lightning poisons. Compared to before, the poison within Mu Chen was now far more concentrated. Mu Chen stared at the lightning spots, his scalp tingling. Anyone who had such a deadly force within them would certainly feel uneasy. "The thunder poison is sufficient now. It should be enough to cover your presence," the bald old man nodded. His words were a great relief to Mu Chen. At least he wouldn't have to endure more lightning strikes. "Next, I will teach you the full version of the Thunder God technique and show you how to control the black divine thunder poison." Upon hearing this, Mu Chen's spirits were instantly lifted. The bald old man smiled and lightly tapped Mu Chen's forehead with his withered finger. A flash of lightning flickered at his fingertip, and a stream of liquid lightning flowed into Mu Chen's forehead. Boom. The moment the liquid lightning merged into Mu Chen's forehead, a deafening thunderclap exploded in his mind. His body trembled slightly as a vast and complex flood of information surged forth like a tidal wave. Thunder God Body, a mid-grade body forging divine art that harnesses the power of heavenly lightning to temper the flesh. At its peak, one's physical body alone could shatter space and wield the strength to move mountains. If mastered to its highest level, its power could rival that of a high-grade divine art. Comparable to a high-grade divine art, Mu Chen was slightly shaken. Body-forging divine arts were already rare, and he hadn't expected the Thunder God body to be this powerful. If cultivated to the extreme, its strength wouldn't be inferior to a high-grade divine art. A technique of this caliber couldn't even be purchased in the Spirit Value Hall. Though he had endured great suffering from the lightning ordeal, the benefits were truly immense. After a brief moment, Mu Chen calmed his excitement, steadied his mind, and began studying the complete cultivation method. As he immersed himself in the profound teachings of the Thunder God body, time slipped by until he slowly opened his eyes, a hint of astonishment flickering within them. According to the technique, the Thunder God body was divided into 9 stages, also known as the 9-rune Thunder body. With each advancement, a lightning rune would manifest on the body. Only when 9 runes were fully formed would the technique reach its pinnacle. At that level, pure physical strength alone could obliterate an ordinary supreme stage powerhouse with a single punch. 9-rune Thunder body. A fiery gleam surged in Mu Chen's eyes. This Thunder God body was indeed extraordinary. Even among body-forging divine arts, it ranked among the most formidable. "I wonder what stage my Thunder body is at now," Mu Chen murmured. "Heh." The bald old man let out a dry chuckle. "Right now? You don't even have a single rune, let alone multiple. Do you think cultivating the Thunder God body is that easy? The higher your level, the harder it becomes. If you can even reach the 3-rune Thunder body, Black Divine Thunder will no longer pose a threat to you. At that point, you'll have to seek an even stronger lightning force than Black Divine Thunder to temper your body, or you won't be able to progress any further." Stronger than Black Divine Thunder? Mu Chen's expression stiffened. Just a weakened strand of Black Divine Thunder had nearly killed him. He couldn't begin to imagine how terrifying lightning stronger than that would be. It seemed that while the Thunder God body was undeniably powerful, its cultivation leaned toward masochism, constantly seeking out increasingly fearsome lightning to endure. No doubt many who attempted this body-forging divine art had been struck dead in their training. "That's still too far ahead for you." The bald old man waved his hand dismissively. "For now, focus on sensing the Black Divine Lightning poison in your body." Mu Chen nodded and formed a series of intricate hand seals. As he did, faint thunderclaps resonated in the air, and strands of lightning flickered around him. Deep within his body, within his blood, flesh, and bones, tiny traces of black lightning emerged, weaving through his body, ceaselessly tempering his meridians, bones, and muscles. As Mu Chen gradually immersed himself in the numbing sensation of this tempering process, a chilling energy suddenly stirred from within. Startled, Mu Chen instantly snapped to attention. With a thought, he directed his spiritual perception inward, only to see a drop of black liquid quietly surface in a concealed area of his body. It moved soundlessly, slipping through his blood and flesh. At times, it even hid within his bones. But wherever it passed, it left behind faint black marks, traces of corrosion left by the lightning poison. So this is the Black Divine Lightning poison? Mu Chen's heart trembled. This thing was truly insidious. If he hadn't cultivated the complete Thunder God body, he wouldn't have been able to detect its presence at all. And as soon as he discovered that single droplet of black liquid, several more chilling fluctuations arose throughout his body. Hidden deep within him, multiple traces of Black Divine Lightning poison lurked. Sensing these toxins, Mu Chen couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. These things were enough to make him restless day and night. "Mu Chen, follow my instructions." Mu Chen hesitated slightly upon hearing this, but then gritted his teeth and activated his cultivation technique, urging the Thunder God body into action. Instantly, a faint rumbling of thunder echoed within his body as a tiny streak of black lightning seeped from his flesh and surged toward a drop of Black Divine Lightning poison. Sensing the approaching black lightning, the Black Divine Lightning poison immediately shrank, as if it was preparing to dart away in the next instant. Mu Chen quickly eased his control. If the lightning poison started rampaging inside his body now, it would cause him immense trouble. He knew that, Without even reaching the one marked thunder body, he had no chance of withstanding an explosion of black divine lightning poison. As he relaxed, the drop of black divine lightning poison gradually calmed down. It seemed to detect a familiar resonance from the black lightning under Mu Chen's control, hesitating for a long moment before cautiously drawing closer. Mu Chen then carefully guided the black lightning strand backward toward the meridians in his arm. This slow push and pull continued for several minutes until the drop of lightning poison was successfully lured into the meridians of his arm. Guide it toward your middle finger's meridian. The bald old man's voice sounded again. Mu Chen nodded and steadily directed the lightning poison into a tiny meridian within his middle finger. This meridian was merely a minor offshoot among the many within the finger, a dead vein, so to speak, one that was blocked and led nowhere. But right now, it became the perfect prison for the lightning poison. After sealing the black divine lightning poison within that abandoned meridian with a strand of black lightning, Mu Chen repeated the process. Over the next hour, he systematically guided all the lightning poison within his body into that single, abandoned meridian. Inside the confined meridian, over a dozen drops of black divine lightning poison stirred uneasily. Then, as if realizing something, they suddenly rioted, fiercely crashing against the black lightning that sealed the exit. Mu Chen opened his eyes at that moment, his gaze heavy as he looked at his right hand. His middle finger had turned completely black, an eerie contrast against his long, fair fingers. The sight was chilling and unsettling. They're trying to break free. Mu Chen's middle finger trembled violently as he spoke in a grave tone. The bald old man gave a calm nod. His withered fingertip flicked, sending a droplet of dark golden blood flying toward Mu Chen's palm. The blood wriggled before instantly merging into his hand. Golden light rippled across Mu Chen's right hand before slowly contracting, transforming into a golden pattern. The radiant mark glided across his palm and finally settled into his middle finger, forming a seal that completely locked the lightning poison inside. No longer could it escape. The blackened hue of Mu Chen's middle finger gradually faded, though he could still sense the black divine lightning poison lurking within. This seal will keep the lightning poison contained. I've severed my control over it, so from now on, you can manipulate the seal yourself, the bald old man said with a smile. Consider this my second gift to you. The black divine lightning poison is a double-edged sword, dangerous, yes, but don't overlook its potential. In future battles, if you secretly activate it and strike with your finger, even a heaven-reaching stage opponent would be instantly crippled. In that hunting war, if you had this trick up your sleeve, there would have been no need for that fierce struggle against that brat, Gu Tianyan. One jab, and it would have been over. Mu Chen was overjoyed, his gaze burning as he stared at his long middle finger. He hadn't expected the black divine lightning poison to have such immense utility. This was truly a windfall. I'll call it the black divine poison finger from now on, Mu Chen murmured, clenching his fist with a grin. The name was simple and fitting, yet it carried terrifying lethality. Senior, what's next? After admiring his finger for a while, Mu Chen finally looked up and asked eagerly, I will make my move soon and draw out the Thunder Spirit, while you dive straight into the Thunder Sea to find the Thunder God Pill. Remember, with your current strength, even though you've cultivated the complete Thunder God body, you can only last in the Thunder Sea for half an hour at most. So, if you haven't found the Thunder God Pill within that time, retreat immediately. Otherwise, you will be reduced to ashes, the bald old man said in a deep voice. Mu Chen nodded gravely. He naturally wouldn't risk his life recklessly. Seeing this, the bald old man didn't say anything further. He allowed Mu Chen to adjust his breathing for another half hour. Once Mu Chen's condition was fully restored, the bald old man slowly ascended into the air. As the bald old man rose, Mu Chen felt the space around him suddenly erupt violently. Waves of spatial ripples surged, as if a spatial storm had been unleashed, causing the entire space to tremble. An overwhelming pressure covered the area, shaking the very fabric of the space. It was the pressure of a Supreme. This pressure was even stronger than that of the White Dragon Supreme. The bald old man's expression was solemn. It seemed as though a vast, pitch black sea surged behind him, and in that sea, a massive fish, endless in size, broke through the waves. Roar! In a roar that shook the heavens, the giant fish suddenly tore apart the endless ocean and extended a pair of enormous dragon wings, blocking out the sky. The scene was terrifying beyond measure. Is this the North Abyss Dragon Xun'er? Chen was stunned. The North Abyss Dragon Xun'er was enormous, spanning tens of thousands of miles, with no end in sight. The terrifying pressure felt as though it was about to break the very space itself. Boom! As the North Abyss Dragon Xun'er appeared, the bald old man's body disappeared. A terrifying thunderstorm erupted in the Black Thunder Sea. Chen looked up and saw countless massive black lightning pillars, thousands of meters tall, shooting into the sky. These pillars then converged above the Thunder Sea and transformed into a formless black thunder spirit. Thunder liquid cascaded from its body like rivers of lightning, and a pair of eerie, dark lightning beams appeared. Resembling eyes formed from black holes, staring at the distant North Abyss Dragon Xun'er. Boom! The formless black thunder spirit seemed to let out an angry roar, and black lightning wreaked havoc, covering an area of several thousand meters. Chen took another deep breath, his eyes filled with awe. This creature must be the thunder spirit. These monstrous beings were simply terrifying. In the isolated space, Chen gazed in amazement at the pitch-black, spherical bead that resembled a black hole. From the fluctuations emanating from it, he knew this was undoubtedly his target. The Thunder God Pill. I finally found it. Chen suppressed the excitement in his heart, but maintained his caution. He quickly darted forward, approaching the floating black lotus that resembled black liquid. As he got closer, Chen realized that the black lotus seemed to be made of black thunder liquid. Though it appeared liquid, it gave off an unshakable, indestructible sensation. There were no violent fluctuations from the lotus, unlike the chaotic, world-destroying thunder in the Thunder Sea. Chen stared at the black lotus for a moment before shifting his focus back to the Thunder God Pill. That was his primary objective, and he had little time left. Chen stretched out his palm, dark lightning flickering across his hand. With a flick of his fingers, the lightning shot forward like silk threads, wrapping around the Thunder God Pill. Because Chen had absorbed some of the Black Divine Thunder's power during his cultivation of the Thunder God body, the Thunder God Pill, originating from the same energy, showed no resistance. It was easily wrapped up and taken by Chen. Seeing everything go smoothly, Chen let out a sigh of relief. With a pull of his hand, the Thunder God Pill wrapped in lightning fell into his grasp. Boom! However, as soon as the Thunder God Pill landed in his hand, the isolated space began to shake violently, and the space twisted as if it was on the verge of collapsing. Chen's expression changed immediately. Although he wasn't sure what exactly the Thunder Liquid Lotus did, the fact that it was born here alongside the Thunder God Pill meant it was no ordinary item. Since he was already here, he might as well take it. Who knew when he'd have such an opportunity again? Chen's eyes flickered as he acted quickly, his palm glowing with thunderous energy as he seized the Thunder Liquid Lotus. Whoosh! Having taken the Thunder Liquid Lotus, Chen didn't dare hesitate. He dashed forward, swiftly moving through the soon-to-collapse isolated space, appearing at the bottom of the dark Thunder Sea. Hiss, hiss. Black thunder covered Chen's body as he pushed his speed to the limit, racing toward the edge of the Thunder Sea. Boom! Just as he accelerated, the Thunder Spirit, still entangled with the beaming Dragon Xun'er above the Thunder Sea, suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. It seemed to go mad, releasing countless bolts of black thunder, which exploded and wiped out the black waves that were approaching. The beaming Dragon Xun'er, seeing the Thunder Spirit's sudden rage, felt a surge of joy. This meant that Chen must have found the Thunder God Pill. Boom! Boom! The Thunder Spirit roared, and countless black lightning bolts shot out like giant dragons, aiming to strike down Chen, who had taken the Thunder God Pill. But the beaming Dragon Xun'er wouldn't let that happen. With a snap of its massive jaws, it unleashed a freezing black cold current that instantly froze the thunderbolts in midair. Seeing that the beaming Dragon Xun'er kept interfering, the Thunder Spirit grew even more enraged. Its enormous body suddenly exploded into a burst of thunder liquid, and with a whoosh, it descended into the Thunder Sea. Then, a massive black divine thunder, roughly 1,000 feet long, tore through the Thunder Sea at an unimaginable speed, heading toward a specific spot in the sea. Chen, racing through the Thunder Sea, felt a chilling sensation spread across his skin, and a suffocating feeling of impending death gripped his heart. He looked up sharply and saw that the Thunder Sea had been torn open. 1,000-foot-long black divine thunder, like a celestial punishment, came crashing down, sealing off all the space around him. There was no way to avoid it. Chen's face turned pale. An attack of this magnitude was beyond his ability to dodge or withstand. All he could do was close his eyes and wait for death. Boom. But just as Chen stood powerless, a terrifying force suddenly tore through the Thunder Sea from the other side. A black cold current howled toward him, beating the black divine thunder to the punch and enveloping Chen in its embrace. Hiss, hiss. The cold current turned into a massive black ice mountain, trapping Chen deep within, layer upon layer of protection. Boom. The black divine thunder slammed into the ice mountain, causing the Thunder Sea to erupt in fury. It sent towering waves of thunder crashing up, and the ice mountain cracked, but it still withstood the full force of the Thunder Spirit's enraged strike. Whoosh! The ice mountain shot forward, breaking through the Thunder Sea in an instant and emerging into an open space. The beaming dragon Xun'er, whose colossal body seemed endless, quickly shrank, transforming back into the frail, old bald man. He landed in front of Chen, his gaze fixed intently on the roiling Thunder Sea. There, the Thunder Spirit was roaring in madness, swirling black thunder as it attempted another assault on the bald old man. Humph! The bald old man snorted coldly and raised his hands. The space around the Thunder Sea suddenly twisted, and the black cold current surged, transforming into a massive black ice prison, sealing the entire Thunder Sea inside. Bang! Bang! Countless black thunderbolts crashed against the ice prison but couldn't break through it. In the past, the bald old man had been cautious, worried the Thunder Spirit might destroy the Thunder God Pill. But now that those concerns were gone, the mindless Thunder Spirit was no match for him. Once the Thunder Spirit was sealed, the bald old man turned to Chen, smiling with narrowed eyes and even rubbing his fingers together. His expression was no longer that of the formidable figure who could tear the heavens apart with a flick of his hand. Chen rolled his eyes at him, clearly unimpressed, but didn't waste time. He clenched his palm, and a flash of black lightning appeared. As the lightning faded, a Thunder God Pill, roughly the size of a human head, was revealed. The moment the Thunder God Pill was brought out, bolts of lightning immediately began to form around it, an extraordinary and mystical sight. The bald old man's eyes turned red with excitement as he gazed at the pill. Without hesitation, he reached out and grabbed it, allowing the black lightning to strike his withered palm. Yet, he remained completely unmoved. The Thunder God Pill. His voice trembled with emotion. He had spent centuries preparing for this moment, and now, he had finally obtained it. With this pill, he could take that crucial step forward, breaking through the shackles of the 9th grade Supreme and advancing to the perfect Earth Supreme. After a long moment of exhilaration, the bald old man finally calmed himself. Carefully storing the Thunder God Pill away, he knew that breaking through wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. Even with the pill in hand, he would need to make extensive preparations. Chen, consider this an old man owing you a favor, he said, turning to Chen. Chen chuckled. Senior, you're too kind. I've already gained plenty from this trip. There's no need to talk about favors. Indeed, he had not only obtained the complete Thunder God body, but also acquired the Black Divine Poison Finger. And soon, he would undergo the Spirit Light Baptism. His harvest was already beyond generous. Heh, you really did reap quite a fortune. The bald old man glanced at Chen with a knowing smile. Chen felt slightly awkward under his gaze, but with a flick of his sleeve, a black lotus, formed from thunder essence and retrieved from the Thunder Sea, appeared before him. Senior, I found this alongside the Thunder God Pill, but I have no idea what it is. Chen pointed at the lotus. The bald old man's eyes flashed with interest. He studied it for a moment before exclaiming in surprise, "This seems to be a thunder god lotus, a rare heavenly treasure that, like the thunder god pill, is only formed under extreme circumstances and lightning. I never expected both to appear in the Thunder Sea at the same time." Thunder God Lotus. Chen finally understood what the Black Lotus was. Just from its name, he could tell it was no ordinary item. "This Thunder God Lotus is yours since you found it," the bald old man said with a wave of his hand. Chen scratched his head, caught off guard by the elder's generosity. After all, the Thunder God Lotus was anything but ordinary. "Though the Thunder God Lotus is rare, it's of little use to me at this stage," the bald old man explained with a smile. "However, for someone cultivating the Thunder God body, it's extremely beneficial. If you meditate on it during training, it will continuously supply you with lightning energy, tempering your body and accelerating your progress." Chen was delighted. The Thunder God Lotus had such a miraculous effect? He had been worried about how difficult the Thunder God body was to refine, but this lotus would ease some of those challenges. "Thank you, Senior," Chen said earnestly. Though this journey had been perilous, his gains more than made up for it. He was certain that if the bald old man publicly announced his findings, countless people would risk their lives to assist him. Unfortunately, there were few who could survive the Black Divine Thunder's impact unscathed. If not for that, even the North Abyss Dragon Kuin wouldn't have sought him out. The bald old man shook his head, then flicked his sleeve, whisking Chen away from the final layer of the Thunder Domain. They reappeared atop a mountain in the 9th layer. Here, the oppressive pressure eased significantly. Though rivers of lightning still drifted in the air, it was far more bearable than the final layer of the domain. "Now then," the bald old man smiled and looked at Chen. "It's time for me to fulfill my promise and grant you the Spirit Light Baptism." Spirit Light Baptism. Hearing those words, Chen couldn't suppress the surge of excitement in his heart. Despite all the rewards he had gained from this journey, this was what he anticipated the most. Unlike the Thunder God body, which required prolonged cultivation, the Spirit Light Baptism could rapidly enhance his strength in a short period, without any side effects. Right now, he was only at the early heaven transformation stage. Compared to Shan Songxing and Li Xintong, who had already reached the heaven-reaching stage, he was still far behind. During the hunting war, he had barely managed to scrape by with a victory, and that was only because ancient heavenly flame hadn't pressed him too hard. After all, the gap between the heaven transformation stage and the heaven-reaching stage is simply too vast. If only his strength could advance a little more, facing opponents at the heaven-reaching stage would no longer be such a struggle. "Take all your spiritual light out," the bald old man said with a smile, clearly in a good mood after obtaining the Thunder God pill. Chen nodded, flicked his fingers, and a brilliant light shot out, transforming into a crystal-clear spirit crystal. Within it, an immense and pure spiritual energy continuously radiated. After taking out this spirit crystal, Chen also retrieved the spiritual light from other spirit generals. Though not as powerful as the spirit kings, even a mosquito is still meat. The bald old man paid no attention to the other spirit general's light, but grabbed the Spirit King crystal. Nodding, he said, "The spirit light realm is quite fascinating. The spiritual energy it condenses is extremely pure. It's perfect for a top-off. Although the spiritual energy of the world is vast and boundless, it always contains other mixed energies, so it needs to be refined before it can be absorbed. But the spirit light realm is different. Although its space is small, the spiritual energy it condenses is far purer than the world's. Take out the Thunder God Lotus. With that thing assisting, the effect of your spiritual light top-off will improve even further," the bald old man said. Chen was delighted. It seemed the Thunder God Lotus was indeed a rare treasure for cultivation. With a wave of his sleeve, the Thunder God Lotus appeared, floating in mid-air. The black, thunderous liquid flowed like a fluid, yet it always retained the form of a lotus flower. Chen moved his body and sat cross-legged atop the Thunder God Lotus. As soon as he made contact, waves of thunderous power quietly surged toward him, eventually invading his body. The thunderous power contained the might of the black divine thunder, but it was far less violent than when it struck from the sky. It gently seeped into Mu Chen's body, flowing through his muscles, blood vessels, and bones, bringing a tingling sensation. Inside Mu Chen's body, the thunder god body almost automatically activated, and his entire physical form, like a starving wolf, greedily devoured the thunderous power, using it to temper his body. Mu Chen couldn't help but exhale a cloud of white air, even containing faint streaks of thunder light. The thunder god lotus truly was a precious treasure. This kind of cultivation felt far more comfortable than being struck by lightning. The bald old man snapped his fingers, and the Spirit King crystal shot out, hovering above Mu Chen's head. The spiritual light surrounded him like a constellation of stars. A vast, pure spiritual energy spread out, forming a thin mist that enveloped Mu Chen. Prepare to begin. With a wave of his sleeve, the bald old man unleashed a blast of cold, black air, sweeping over the spiritual light. Then, beams of light erupted, connecting all the spiritual light, before injecting them into the Spirit King crystal. Boom! A powerful spiritual energy erupted from the crystal. The purity of the energy was so great that it condensed into liquid-like energy spheres on the surface of the crystal, glowing brightly. Whoosh! The bald old man pointed his withered finger, and a powerful beam of spiritual energy shot out from the crystal, striking down from the sky and enveloping Mu Chen, who was sitting atop the thunder god lotus. The overwhelming, pure spiritual energy poured into Mu Chen's body like a tidal wave. This spiritual energy was so pure that it didn't need any refinement. It was directly absorbed by the divine soul, sitting in the Qi Sea, opening its small mouth to devour all of it. Around the divine soul, circles of spiritual energy light appeared, and the vast spiritual power rippled through Mu Chen's limbs and bones. However, as more and more spiritual energy poured in, Mu Chen felt that some of the energy began to leak out of his body. This was a normal phenomenon because the spiritual light top-off couldn't absorb all of the energy. Nearly half of the spiritual energy would disperse during absorption. Though Mu Chen felt regretful about the energy that leaked away, there was nothing he could do about it. Clearly, this was beyond his ability to control. The bald old man stared at the spiritual energy that leaked out from Mu Chen's body, furrowing his brows. Despite his efforts in overseeing the spiritual light baptism, this energy was being so unruly. If even his intervention could only allow Mu Chen to receive half the benefits, it would be quite embarrassing for him. Get back in there. The bald old man extended his finger, and a wave of black cold current shot towards Mu Chen, causing a layer of black ice to spread, enveloping his body. As the black ice surrounded Mu Chen, the rebellious spiritual energy trying to disperse was forcefully driven back into his body. This was the advantage of having a powerful figure overseeing the spiritual light baptism. The bald old man's profound strength allowed him to perform it with perfection, a feat other elders could never achieve. Unlike others, who could only do it in a rough manner, he ensured no spiritual energy leaked. Mu Chen, feeling the spiritual energy being pulled back into his body, couldn't help but marvel. Truly, the North Abyss Dragon Kuan was incredible. It had managed to force the energy back without harming him or depleting his own energy reserves. With the bald old man overseeing the spiritual light baptism, Mu Chen was able to put aside his worries. He calmed his mind and focused on cultivating his divine soul, absorbing the endless stream of spiritual energy pouring into him. The bald old man, observing Mu Chen meditating on the thunder god lotus, nodded slightly. He didn't take a violent approach to the baptism. Such methods were too crude and beneath his dignity. Moreover, it would be disrespectful to Mu Chen, who had helped him retrieve the thunder god pill. So, the bald old man chose the most refined and gradual method, using a perfect, steady approach. Every time he infused spiritual energy into Mu Chen, it was always precisely at the limit Mu Chen could absorb. This ensured a continuous flow of energy, with no interruptions, allowing Mu Chen to enter a deep cultivation state, enhancing the effectiveness of the baptism. Only a few in the Northern Song Spiritual Academy possessed the ability to control it so perfectly. The lowest level of spiritual light baptism, often administered to ordinary students, didn't even require anyone's involvement. As soon as the students left the spiritual light realm, the energy around them naturally dispersed and flowed into their bodies. However, the energy consumption was significant, with nearly 60 to 70% of it wasted. The bald old man sat cross-legged in midair, his gaze fixed on Mu Chen as he underwent the baptism. This method required a lot of time, but he believed that most would overlook this minor issue. Now, we just wait for the spiritual light baptism to finish. Stretching, the bald old man smiled and muttered to himself. It seemed he would be guarding here for a while. Time passed quietly in the 9th layer of the Thunder Domain. Without anyone noticing, an entire month had gone by. During this month, Mu Chen's body seemed to fall into a deep sleep, with no movement at all. Even his breathing had slowed to a near-invisible level, resembling that of someone on the brink of death. However, despite his faint breath, anyone could feel the spiritual energy emanating from Mu Chen's body growing more and more powerful with each passing day. Clearly, this spiritual light baptism would bring him tremendous benefits. Meanwhile, the bald old man casually sat nearby, stretching lazily. He had been watching over Mu Chen for an entire month, and from the looks of it, there was no sign of it ending soon. This kid, the bald old man muttered, shaking his head. He clenched his fist, and the Thunder God pill appeared in his hand. With a smile, he gently stroked it, his expression one of bliss. With the Thunder God pill in his possession, this long and tedious wait had become much more enjoyable. As time quietly slipped by, over the course of the month, Mu Chen disappeared from the Northern Song Spiritual Academy due to the spiritual light baptism. This puzzled many students, as the process typically didn't take so long. During this period, the shockwave caused by the hunting war gradually subsided, and the heavenly ranking, which had been in a state of intense fluctuation, began to stabilize. Various dark horses had already made their appearances, and the structure of the heavenly ranking had been altered. To see another massive change in the heavenly ranking, one might have to wait until the next hunting war begins. By then, perhaps another group of dark horses will emerge. However, everyone understood that while dark horses might appear, it would be extremely difficult to see another prodigy like Mu Chen. The strength of an early heaven transformation stage practitioner being able to defeat someone in the early heaven reaching stage was, for many, an unbelievable feat.